This is Get Real and Heal for high-performing women executives and entrepreneurs, where we discuss all things emotional healing and the relationships with yourself, your man, and your money. I'm your host, Jamila McMallow, wife, mother, certified cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner, mindset and relationship expert with over 20 years coaching and mentoring experience. I know that when you're the one that everyone else leans on, the leader and the trailblazer, it can be difficult to let your guard down, be vulnerable, and tend to your own emotions. So I hope today's discussion will allow you a moment to experience a life-changing realization, perhaps even a transformation. So let's begin and get real and heal. All right, today's episode is Redefining Success, Marriage, and Motherhood First. And this is such a powerful topic because I am a 46-year-old Gen Xer, and I definitely did not grow up in a time where women were taught to value being wives and mothers. We were taught, ingrained, indoctrinated to work, to build a career, to get a bunch of degrees, to pursue professional success and making money, because that was how you would achieve happiness. That's how you would achieve fulfillment. That was the blueprint for life. That was the roadmap to follow. And for those of us who went to traditional public and private school, that was what we were conditioned and indoctrinated to believe. And not only just to work and pursue professional success, but in the same way that men pursue it, to really go after it and be dominant in our masculine energy. And we all have masculine and feminine energy, and we use it differently and at different times. But for you to be operating in the energy that is not your dominant state of being or natural way of being is exhausting. And so for many of us now, here we are, over 40 plus, and realizing that we're tired, that we're exhausted, that the programming was a lie. It was not the pathway to happiness or fulfillment. It was not the roadmap to success, that trying to outman men that's not where it's at. And the incredible thing is that with the advent of the internet, women have been able to level the playing field when it comes to financial success, when it comes to having access to resources, information. The gatekeeping that once was is not so much there anymore. As long as a woman has money to pay for access to join a particular mastermind or group, she gets to be a part of it and learn from the individuals inside of that group. Now, as far as institutions like in corporate America, yes, those battles are still being fought with regards to equity in pay, leadership, especially the challenges that women of color face in that environment. But as I said, on the internet and your ability to make money as an entrepreneur, the sky is the limit and the access is there. And so there really just is no longer a need for any woman to feel compelled to pursue this singular path of how success has been defined for us. That we have to put professional success and making money as the priority and the pursuit that we go after at all costs, at the expense of our well-being, our mental health, our marriages, our ability to be present mothers and to be there for our kids. The programming and what we want, what we desire, is no longer lining up. And so that's why this season is specifically dedicated to that high-performing married woman who is at this place where she's like, okay, I did everything they told me I was supposed to do, and I'm not happy. And I'm not feeling at peace. I'm not feeling at ease. I'm still feeling like what I've done is not enough. I still have more to do. I still have to continue pursuing, achieving, checking boxes, doing all these different things. And it's because that's just what you were taught to believe was true and possible for you and what you had to do in order to be successful. And so in this episode, I'm really challenging it because for me, I just don't believe in it anymore. I reject it. I release it. It's just whatever. We're in a day and age where as women, we get to choose. You're here because you're over 35, you're over 40. You have marketable skills. You have degrees or a degree. You have a career or a successful business. So financially, you know how to take care of yourself. That's neither here nor there. So the idea that you could actually lean into and embrace the idea of allowing your husband to be the leader financially in the family shouldn't feel scary at all, because you're not you're not someone who cannot take care of yourself if you ever have to do that. And let's face it, even in situations to where you have a good man and he's a wonderful provider and all those things, life can change. He could get sick and you have to step in or whatever, and you're more than happy to do that. And you are more than equipped to do that because of all the things that you've done all these years. So for you to get to this time and space in your life and to say, I don't want to do business, money, professional success, career, climbing the corporate ladder anymore as my whole thing, more power to you. You don't have to. You don't have to. If you still wanted to flex your business muscles like me, you know how to have a business on the side. We have the internet, so many different ways that you can make money that don't require you to have to put in 40 hours a week. And even when you have your own business, because some of you listening are business owners, you know, as well as I do, that mentally you're spending more than 40 hours a week thinking and focusing on your business at the expense of your marriage and being present with your children. You know that. So when I say redefining success, marriage, and motherhood first, for me, I took a vow to God, okay, when I got married, and I take that vow very seriously. And so making a vow to God for me is of the utmost priority. I don't care what anybody else says or thinks about what it means to be successful and blah, blah, blah. I don't have to answer to them. Second, when my husband and I decided to have children, my children rely on me and him. They're helpless. They don't have the ability to go out and do life for themselves. So their needs and teaching them and making sure that they become independent, responsible adults that have a good relationship with God, that are good people, who have high moral standards, that takes time, effort, and energy, and a whole lot more than just the few hours you're spared at the end of a long day of focusing on something else. So for me, my priority is that which is of the most importance, which is the vow that I've taken before God, which is the commitment that my husband and I made in bringing life into this world and being responsible for it. And so if you have been living in this world of high achieving and pursuing professional success and going after money, then the idea of putting marriage and motherhood first might feel like a huge shift. And you may, in your words and in your conscious mind, be thinking you've been putting your marriage and your kids first, but you and I know you haven't. Think about what you spend most of your time thinking about and focusing on. And it's not that, unless it's just problem solving. And so what has to be released is this conditioning that we've been taught by society that success is measured in titles, income, and external accomplishments. It's not the only way. Success is not just about your career or your financial achievements. It is about the relationships that matter most, your marriage, your children, and your family. And you already know deep down that you've reached a point where those things matter more to you than any accolade or paycheck. But there's still a fear there that if you start prioritizing your family over your career, that you're somehow going to lose your identity as a woman, as an independent, free-thinking woman, or that you're going to be giving up on success, like you're dropping out of a race or going off of this path that you've been plowing forward on for so long. And so now it's like you may feel like it's all for nothing, but that's not true. See, redefining success is about aligning your life with what truly matters. It's about realizing that success doesn't have to look like hustle and grind. It can look like creating a peaceful, loving home, being present with your kids, and nurturing a strong, supportive marriage. Now, what I'm not advocating is that every woman go out and quit her job or burn down her business and become a stay-at-home mom. It's not what I said. It's not what I'm saying. For me, this shift looked like realizing that the success that I had been chasing, it just was not fulfilling the deepest parts of me. And what truly filled me up was being there for my family, being a loving wife, and showing up for my kids in a way that made them feel seen and cherished. And I know that's what so many of you want to do as well. And for me, that is homeschooling my kids. I do not believe in the traditional schooling system because of my own experiences, and I'll be getting into that in a future episode. So for me, educating our children privately at home is a priority for me, okay? Being a good wife, speaking life into my husband, supporting his success so that he's optimally performing financially for the family, those things are important to me. Now, some of you might be listening to this and be thinking, oh, well, what about, I don't want to be relying on me, blah, blah, blah. Listen, then maybe this episode wasn't for you, because who I'm talking to really are happily married women who are married to good men, who are good providers, who deep down are already secretly longing to just walk away from it all. That's the truth. But you don't know how to do that. And what I'm telling you is you don't have to do that. And the reason why you feel like walking away from it all is because you've been doing too much for too long. And so you're burnt out. You're out of steam, you're out of gas, and you're just ready to be like, I don't even care anymore. And I understand that feeling because I've been there. But what allowed me to get back into a place to where, yes, I can have this business. I can show up here for you on this podcast. I can create powerful mini courses that are going to help you to create transformation in your life. I can go do speaking engagements. Okay. I can show up on social media because now it does not take priority in my mind or in my life. I'm no longer driven by this internal programming that's telling me that in order for me to have a business, I have to reach this specific level of success as defined by whatever it is this programming is telling me equals success. It's got to be a multi-million-dollar thing, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and you've got to... I have a small window of time with my children to have an impact on their lives, to educate them in the ways of being that are going to set them up for the most success in their life. Anything else outside of that doesn't have no time limit on it. Making money, building a business, having a career, none of those things have expiration dates on them. But the life of your child, the time that you have with them, that does. And so for this season that I'm in, because I mentioned this in a previous episode, that as women, we have to start honoring and respecting the season that we are in and prioritizing the season over and above the programming, because the programming is defunct. It is outdated and it is a lie, and it has been proven that for women, it leads to burnout, it leads to overwhelm, and it leads to never feeling like you're doing enough. It leads to mom guilt. It leads to strained relationships with your husband. It leads to not knowing how to lean back and allow yourself to be lovingly led and to fully support your husband and to have a marriage that is healthy. That's what the programming has led to. Okay? To prioritize professional success and the pursuit of money above all else. That being a good mom and a wife are great. And yes, you do need to be great at them because you must be great at everything. So you have to wear all the hats at all times. But you are only human, but it doesn't matter. You still have to act like you're not and do all these things that are beyond your limitations and abilities because that's what the programming says women have to do. And so I invite you to do what I have done and reject that nonsense. Respect the season that you are in. Decide that you don't have to do any of that in order to be happy, fulfilled, or successful. Success is what you define it to be. And putting your marriage and your children first after your relationship with God are the most important things, because at the end of the day, those are the areas of your life where you're going to carry guilt at the end of the day. You are not going to feel guilty about what you did or didn't do in your business when you're laying on your deathbed. You're just not. Okay? That's just not what happens. It's the relationships. It's our families. It's what we're building. And that can look different for everyone. And what I'm saying is that when it comes to your career, when it comes to your business, you can have them, but make sure you're putting them in the right place. There's an illustration where if you have where it's a glass jar, and if you put and you have sand and some little rocks, right? And if you put all of the sand in first, and the sand in this scenario would be the programming, the beliefs, everything that's telling you that you need to prioritize success and money and accolades and education, 5,000 degrees and all these other things outside of you that validate your value, worth, and existence. Okay. Those would be the sand. And the rocks would be the things that are the most important things, like your relationship with your husband, like your relationship with your children, like being a present wife, being a present mom. Now, if you take that jar and you put the sand in first and you try to put the rocks on top, the rocks don't fit. So what's the point? The sand, those things that are external that you're pursuing because of the programming that you've been indoctrinated with, will not leave space and room for you to do the things that are actually more important. But if you empty that jar back out and you put the more important things in first, those rocks, and then add the sand on top of it, everything fits into the jar. And so what's the lesson? It just simply has to do with the order in which you're doing things, the order of priority in which you're doing things, honoring and respecting the season that you're in, putting the things that actually matter and are most important first, and then relegating those other things to second place. And if you really allow your husband to carry his load financially and as the provider and all those things, then you'll understand that you don't have to carry that load as if you are all by yourself. You're not. And you know that consciously, and you love him for who he is and how he supports you in whatever you do. But it's that unconscious programming that's telling you that you must do it this way, that you must keep driving yourself into the ground. Because oh my goodness, if you didn't have this professional success and if you were not making this money, then you would just with the air quotes, you would just be a wife and mother and gasp. Who would want to only be a wife and mother, as if those roles are somehow less than a job title, a business, or money? So here's your homework. I want you to take a moment to redefine what success looks like for you now. Write it down. Doesn't include more time for your marriage, more presence with your children, more peace in your daily life. Let go of the pressure to live up to someone else's definition of success and create your own. Next week, or I should say in our next episode, we're going to be talking about breaking free from breadwinner energy, ooh-wee, which is going to be so important for those of you who feel like you have to carry it all, even though you're happily married to a good man who is a good provider. And I cannot wait to have that conversation with you. Now, if you want to stay in the know about everything that I've got coming as a part of the Feminine Ease movement, I want you to click the link in the description for this episode. And I am also going to drop the link for you in the description to my homeschooling course. It is Homeschooling with Confidence, Trust Your Instincts, Teach with Ease. And it is for mothers who have been seriously thinking about homeschooling, who actually really want to do it, but are not sure where to start. And it is a mindset shifting, in fact, mindset blowing little mini course to help you to understand who you really are as a mother and the power you have and can have over your child's development and education, no matter what you've been indoctrinated to believe about school, and I have air quotes. So, until next time, I want you to know that you are worthy and deserving of everything that you desire simply because you live, breathe, and exist. And I want you to know that success for you is whatever you decide that it is. Visit CoachJamila.com, where you'll find the links to connect with me on social media and more information on my private coaching for high-performing women.